computer. And yeah, okay. Right, everybody. So if we look in Runa Chai, okay, we're going to be talking about natural disasters. And this is a continuation of last week's class, which was weather and climate. Okay, we talked about all life is in the troposphere, remember, and weather occurs in the troposphere. It is the layer of life within the different layers of the atmosphere, okay? And it is where atmospheric phenomena, do you remember atmospheric phenomena occur? The rain, the clouds, changes in temperature, the wind, snow, etc. Okay? Now, when we have too many atmospheric phenomena, well, this can turn into a natural disaster. Okay? So we're going to have a look at that. Remember last week in your asynchronic activity, there were two pictures, ¿no es cierto? There were two pictures. One was of a village that was flooded, and another were of palm trees being blown in the wind, okay? Those are natural disasters caused by atmospheric phenomena. Por eso es muy importante que ustedes revisan el vocabulario, que entiendan el vocabulario y que retienen el vocabulario, right? Estamos con science en inglés. So, no solamente es science, pero también estamos aprendiendo el idioma. Y no hay atajos cuando ustedes aprenden un idioma. Muchas veces tienen que solo memorizar vocabulario. Vocabulario son los ladrillos que construyen un idioma. Y en science, más, porque estamos enfrentando nuevo vocabulario cada semana, all right? So, it's very important that you review in the presentations, in the videos, the vocabulary. Okay, so this week we're going to be looking at a Genially presentation of natural disasters, okay? So let's open up this. Just a second, right. The effects of natural disasters. That's weird. Yeah, the effects of natural disasters. Here we go. Put the volume down, Moy. Okay, so first question, what are natural disasters? There's one. Well, this can be natural or man-made. Let's say it's a natural forest fire. What are natural disasters? A catastrophe. A catastrophe or a disaster is a sudden change in the normal order of things. Cuando hay un cambio brusco, un cambio tal vez negativo de lo normal, este puede decir que es un desastre natural cuando hay cambios en atmospheric phenomena. When a catastrophe affects ecosystems, it can cause the disappearance of some species or even the whole ecosystem. For example, a forest fire can be so bad it can destroy this ecosystem, if it's that bad, or it can also cause the disappearance or extinction of some species, okay, which is why we call them disasters, catastrophes, because they are. Now, natural disasters are related to winds, hurricanes, cyclones, rainfall, floods, drought, remember drought, sequías, and fires. Let's have a look. So what do we have here? We have a video about natural disasters. The 10 most dangerous natural disasters, okay? Check out this video, okay? It's more visual than understanding, but it'll help with some vocabulary as well, okay? So, changes in weather. Changes in weather can cause disasters. Just look at this picture. Look at this picture. Here we have lush, wet grass. And here we have dry, broken soil. What can cause this? A drought, una sequía. A drought can cause this. Look, from here to here. So let's have a look. Solar energy, energy from the sun, comes to the earth from the sun's rays. Great, that's what we need. Some of the energy heats the earth, okay? So hay una parte de la energía que calienta el planeta, la Tierra. Y lo demás, and the rest, returns to the atmosphere, okay? So the sun rays comes down, heats the earth, oh, we feel good, and the rest heats the air. That sounds good. Mantenemos la temperatura, no morimos de extremo calor ni frío, todo bien. But we have in the atmosphere lo que se llama greenhouse gases, gases invernaderos. Here they are: carbon dioxide, nitrogen, methane. They're very important. Carbon dioxide, which we breathe out, and we think, we don't need that. Well, we do. We do need that. Why? Very important, because they stop the heat from escaping into space. Okay, so imagine you have the planet, okay? The sun's rays heat the planet. Oh, that's nice. The sun, the heat then goes into the atmosphere. Oh, it's a warm day, I'll put on a t-shirt. Now, if we did not have these nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane, si no existieran, then todo este calor volvería al espacio. So it would be very cold. The greenhouse gases is like una funda plástica que mantiene. Cuando tú calientas un plato de comida y quieres que guarda el calor, tú tapas con papel aluminio, tú tapas con celofán o tú tapas con, no sé, Tupperware. ¿Ok? Mantiene el calor. Eso es lo que pasa con los greenhouse gases. Mantiene el calor. Uy, estamos bien. But here comes the bad part. But if there are too many greenhouse gases, si hay demasiado carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and methane, then the earth can overheat. Se puede sobrecalentar. ¿Qué pasa con esto? It causes changes in temperature in parts of the world. So, go back. We have gases in the atmosphere which keep the heat in. Great. But if there are too many gases, then more and more and more heat builds up and it affects the climate. Si ustedes comen chocolate, no pasa nada. Si ustedes comen chocolate una vez a la semana, no pasa nada. 2 veces a la semana, oh, well, okay. Si ustedes comen chocolate 7 días a la semana, van a tener consecuencias, van a engordar, tal vez van a sentir mal, tal vez van a tener problemas con la piel, ¿ok? Niveles de energía. There is a problem. Cuando hay demasiado de algo, hay siempre consecuencias, right? So what are the changes? It could be more rain, storms, floods, or the opposite, droughts and heat waves. Climate changes can cause the disappearance of ecosystems. Why? Because the animals do not have time to adapt. If there is a change in the climate that's quick, the animals don't have the time to evolve and adapt, and they can die off. Here's a bit of information. In the North Pole, because of changes in temperature, the frozen part of the North Pole, la parte congelada, has decreased by 10%. 10% de la parte congelada del Polo Norte ha derretido, okay? Okay, so 10% no parece mucho, pero también the ice is 40% less thick. Ha perdido 40% de su espesor. Antes fue así, and now it's like this. Okay? What can happen? It can cause a rise in the sea. So the sea level can come up. Uy, what can that cause? It can cause floods. Okay, remember, it is all connected. Do we have a little picture here? I think we do. Just a second, guys. Oh, it's going to take too long. Click on this cross. Here we go. The greenhouse effect. This is what this is called. So the sun heats the earth. Wonderful. Okay, it's great. It's great. All right. And the heat stays in the atmosphere. But when there are too many gases, the sun heats the earth and less heat can get out and the earth gets hotter, right? It gets hotter, which causes the change in the climate, okay? Next one. So let's have a look at some disasters. Wind, cyclone, hurricanes. How are they caused? Well, differences in atmospheric pressure, lo que vimos la semana pasada, and temperature can cause wind. So changes in atmospheric phenomena, for example, pressure and temperature, can cause wind. Cyclones and hurricanes are a type of wind which goes round, and is very destructive. Aquí hay uno. This is a picture taken from space, right? You can see this is the center of the cyclone, and this is the wind going around and around and around. Cyclones are normal, but how are they caused? Warm water from the sea, okay, evaporates. So there's a lot of evaporation, there's a lot of water, humidity, change in the atmospheric pressure, and winds in the upper layer start causing the rotation. Es una ocurrencia normal, pero cuando los océanos empiezan a calentar a causa de los cambios en las temperaturas climáticas, causa aún más evaporación, lo que causa más cyclones and hurricanes, okay? If we read here, let's click on this. When water evaporates, water vapor rises and mixes with the low pressure. Okay, then it begins to rotate. Look, and the energy is transformed into kinetic energy, moving energy, causing rain and lightning. Okay? Right. The cyclone can then intensify its rotation. It spins faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, and it becomes a hurricane, okay? With winds of 120 kilometers an hour, okay? This really violent wind can affect the coast. They cause erosion and loss of biodiversity. ¿Ves? This is a satellite picture of a hurricane. Mira. Okay? They can cause damage and they can damage ecosystems. Okay? Which is why they are called a natural disaster. Let's carry on. ¿Qué más? Wildfires. Wildfires here are natural forest fires. Well, not natural, también man-made, right? They can affect the ecosystems. How? Well, they can affect organisms, animals. They can affect the soil, and they can affect the air. How? Okay, so there's a big fire. Small organisms such as worms, fungus, lichens. Lichen is a small plant, very simple. Es una planta más sencilla, no necesita mucha agua, no necesita mucha alimentación. Es una planta muy sencilla, right? Fungus, we know, and worms. So there's a big fire. Worms, fungus, microorganisms, plants are destroyed, which changes the dynamics of the ecosystem, okay? You have a fire, it destroys everything, all the microorganisms, the balance is going to change. Now, the good thing is, if the roots of the flora, so si las raíces de las plantas no se quemaron, if they're not burnt, then it recovers. In 2 or 3 years, it comes back. That's great, right? Si las raíces no se quemaron, todo recupera y vuelve. Sin embargo, if it's a bad fire and the roots are burnt, si se queman las raíces de las plantas, it can recuperate, but it can take 10 years, 10 años. Obvio, mientras que está recuperando, wind, rain, etc., erode the soil and the ecosystem changes. No hay protección, está expuesto a los elementos. Mientras que está recuperando en tanto tiempo, lo que pasa, hay erosion of soil, yeah? Tal vez erosion of fertility. El ecosystem no vuelve, pero cambia, okay? That's 1. 2, when there's a fire, soil can lose its nutrients and fertility, okay? And it can erode. Si la tierra pierde sus nutrientes, su fertilidad, y empieza a erosionar, tú puedes tener el efecto, look at this, desertification. Desertification, desert, desierto. So, un bosque fértil, hermoso, se puede convertir en un desierto si no puede recuperar después de un incendio. ¿Qué pasa con el ecosistema? It changes totally. Air. Oh dear. No escribí aquí. The air becomes polluted, contaminated. Okay, aquí olvidé. Okay, disculpa. The air with all the smoke becomes contaminated, causes illnesses, problems. That's a disaster. That's a natural disaster. And we have intentional fires. Intentional con intención de propósito. Este pasa mucho en Ecuador y en otros países. ¿Cómo así? Les digo. Many farmers in Ecuador in the mountain set fire to the grassland, right? So, si ustedes están viajando especialmente al occidente, a veces pueden ver mucho humo porque están quemando la naturaleza. Why? They think it helps to regenerate the growth of grass, okay? So they clear and they think it helps to regenerate. It doesn't. This is a tradition which is totally wrong. The problem is the fire destroys everything, the plants, the microorganisms, animal habitats, animals, and biodiversity. What these farmers do is a disaster for the environment and, of course, the smoke for the air pollution. It's very bad. They should not be doing this, but they do it, and it still happens here and in other countries. Flood. A flood. Here's a flood. This is another natural disaster. Heavy rainfall can cause floods, which affect, obviously, not just humans, but affects plants and animals. When there are floods, plants and animals can survive, okay? Trees, especially, trees can survive. But very young animals or old animals don't. They cannot escape in time. They're very vulnerable. And as you can see in the picture, humans, we are also affected by floods. They can destroy our homes, destroy our jobs. It can cause a lot of damage to humans, flora, and fauna, okay? Now, this is a word that you need to know. Se dice, pronuncia drought, a drought. This is a drought, okay? So look at the difference. We have a flood, and we have the opposite, which is a drought. What is a drought? There we go. Droughts are long periods of time when there's no rain. It is a terrible disaster. What happens? Rivers dry, evaporate, disappear. Lakes evaporate and dry, they disappear. There's no water, plants die. Animals die. Animals can't drink and there's no plants to eat. What happens? The situation, a drought, breaks down the food chain. La cadena alimenticia se desbarata totalmente. Hay etapas, hay pasos de la cadena alimenticia que desaparecen. Entonces, ya no funciona. And the ecosystem is completely affected negatively, okay? So that is the drought. Thankfully, aquí no tenemos este problema. So natural disasters, droughts. The opposite, floods. We have man-made fires, which is a disaster. It causes a disaster, man-made fires. Wildfires, which are forest fires, which occur by themselves. Wind, cyclones and hurricanes, bad news. Okay, and of course there's also changes in temperature, which affects the frozen areas like the North Pole. Okay, so that's the presentation. And let's see, let me just go over the asynchronic activity, and then if we have time, we'll do the quizzes. Okay, this is a written presentation using any presentation platform. We have here 5 questions again. What are natural disasters? How and where does a cyclone form? What are the consequences of burning grassland in the mountain region in Ecuador? What are the consequences of the Ecuadorian farmers burning the grassland in the Sierra? Check out the presentation. Now, la semana pasada nosotros vimos en climate and temperature un poco de El Niño. Remember, El Niño is the warm water ocean current. Now, check out last week's presentation again. Why should El Niño cause natural disasters? How? Right? Check it out and use a little bit of reflective thought, okay? Logical thought. Number 5, work with your family and create an emergency plan in case of a natural disaster, okay? So, conversa con tu familia y en la presentación explica cuál es tu plan de emergencia in case of a natural disaster. It's going to be, in Quito, what would be the natural disaster? What would be the most obvious natural disaster in Quito? Can somebody tell me? Carla, ¿me escuchas?
Sorry, teacher.
What is the natural disaster? Yes, what would be the natural disaster in Quito, the most obvious one?
Like a drought.
Could be a drought. I'm thinking more a volcanic eruption, probably Cotopaxi. Or I'm thinking maybe an earthquake. Fire could be, yes, but I think maybe it could be, yeah, it could be a drought. Sí, porque a veces no llueve, yeah. It could be a volcanic eruption or an earthquake. So what is your plan of emergency as a family? Okay, and that is your asynchronic activity for the week.